Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to Rejuvi 45. If you're here, we have a hunch that you are interested in this phrase called modern leadership. And this is the community for modern leadership with a deep commitment to helping every leader, every business, and every team to move forward with it. So we're really happy that you're here. My name is Regina Hebb, and today I am joined by.
Hey everybody, Charlie Jacoby. I'm a partner and principal at Rejuvi, working with Reg.
Yeah, how's it going, Charlie?
Pretty good.
Yeah, you just got back. Well, maybe about a week ago, you got back from one of your winter camping expeditions, which is so entirely unique.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a good time to take a break and put the electronics away and just focus on the simple things of staying alive in the bush in the winter.
Well,
So,
yeah, but I think what's so interesting about it is, you're making the most of your surroundings, and we do live, in Minnesota, and so you traveled uh, up north, as
right.
we would say here, and making the most of the season. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And it always amazes me, we make all these decisions every day, especially in these complex work environments that we're in. Um, but the decisions get there's so many fewer decisions to make when you're on trips, in the wilderness. But each of those decisions, carries a lot of
mhm.
different weight. Like, hey, are you going to step on this chunk of ice that looks a little sketchy? And if you don't make the right decision, you might end up a little cold. So that some of the results are more dramatic. So yeah, you have fewer decisions, but some of them have bigger repercussions and
Bigger.
ramifications.
Yeah,
I know we make important decisions every day in the work world too, but it's just a different context of decision making, and everything slows down, which is kind of
mhm.
interesting.
Mhm. But I think that that's a perfect segue into today's topic. Maybe fewer decisions, but more implications, more repercussions of the decisions that you make. We're here. Our topic today is called Stronger Together, and it's really examining what sorts of things have to come together um, in order for us to move differently than we have in the past. So another way to say that would be, what are those few decisions that we have to make in order to get the kind of impact that we actually want? So in the past, I don't know, maybe we've known each other for many decades. We've been working together for a couple of years now. And you started to use this phrase. I think I first heard you use it maybe, I don't know, maybe the end of last year. So, and it was called business case leakage. And I've heard you use it several times, and I've kind of becoming a little bit fascinated by it. And so, one of the things I want you to do is just talk a little bit about this phrase, business case leakage. What is it? What do you know about it? Where did it come from? How can we think about applying it?
Yeah, yeah. So, um, most things we do in business, they're you're doing it for a reason, obviously, just like anything in life. But those reasons are often very quantifiable, and they're financially quantifiable, right? It's like, hey, if we do this project or we do this transformation, we think it's going to bring X amount of value to the organization. And when you put these business, and I've been involved in a lot of major transformations at, mostly large enterprises, but a variety of mid-sized enterprises as well. But when you're putting these when you're putting these business cases together, you're always after those quantitative components, because that usually is what gets you the capital approved that you need to fund, the major initiative that you're working on, right? And quantifiable things are, like everybody expects they show up on the balance sheet, right? And then there are qualitative aspects too, like, we can't measure it from like a financial perspective, but maybe that there's one of the stakeholders' experiences is getting better. And I know like if consumer experience gets better or customer experience gets better or employee experience gets better, for those of us that have done these business cases, you always want to challenge yourself to try to measure those, right, from a financial perspective. But sometimes they're just things that are more qualitative, that it's just harder to translate to the balance sheet. And so um, when you combine those two things, the quantitative and the qualitative levers that are going to be delivered as part of whatever the initiative is you're working on and putting the business case together for, that's the value that is going to be brought to the organization when that project or program is executed on successfully, right? And so when I started talking about business case leakage, it was in the context of my journey to Rejuvi and the realization, I think, that one of the key causes or root causes of some of the leakage I was seeing in transformational work that I was involved in was around the lack of organizational change management or organizational readiness work. And it took on, a variety of there were a variety of different aspects to that. But I think there were two primary things. One, um, there was erosion of adoption of the new capabilities, whatever, that whether it's a new process with a technology enablement component, et cetera, there was limited adoption, and the adoption was lower than what was expected, and so then that erodes the benefits that you're getting, that you had in the business case, right? And then the second piece was, and especially with like really large transformational programs that introduce new things like, well, like automation, taking tasks that have been repetitive, non-cognitive, that individuals have been working on and trying to automate those, right? And I think you could argue that, there's major shifts occurring with some of these new AI capabilities that are coming to market and really changing how people are doing their work. um, I think one of the other thing that can get eroded is like the number of use cases that you were expecting to be able to apply a new capability to are you don't have the backlog that you were expecting. And I think what I was seeing is some of the reasons for that where people were scared to bring forward, some of those use cases and scenarios that would apply well to what the program was offering, but that could also cause, I'll just say, like issues and risk to those people who would bring them forward, right? Like in the automation example, hey, do I really want to bring all my work forward that I know can be automated and trust that the organization is going to find me a a new role that is a more cognitive based role, or a role that requires human cognition to do the work, which was kind of the one of the promises of automation was, hey, get the get the non-cognitive work that people don't like doing anyway off their desk and their plate, and have the automation do that, and then get people moved up the food chain where they're having to think more about the work they're doing, which is more pleasant for most people anyway. And so the quality of the work increases. But all that's great, but if you don't do the appropriate amount of organizational change work, and you aren't able to set the vision of like, here is why we think we should do this program, here's how it aligns to where we as a company are in the market, and then here's why this is really important to our future, and you don't get everybody to be in sync with that vision and the mission and the reasons for doing the program, it just it threatens you see the leakage in the business case. Essentially, you're not
Yeah,
gonna accomplish everything you could, and you're just, you're leaving value on the table.
yeah.
So
When you talk about um, we experience business case leakage, or let me just play back some of this that I heard from you. When we think about a business case, there's always, just as you said, qualitative elements to our business case, and there's quantitative elements to our business case. And so, when we think about leakage that occurs to those quantitative or qualitative elements, I like what you're talking about in terms of there's a lack of org readiness or change leadership. It goes back to these sorts of things. And when you talk about from your experience, the reasons why this was occurring was number one, because of the erosion of adoption, right?
Hmm.
And number two, there's this the backlog of work that you were expecting to influence isn't really coming to fruition. And I see those two things highly correlated. Do you know what I mean? So people aren't adopting it in some cases, not only because they maybe don't know how to use it, but it's also because there may be fear of repercussions of, wait a minute, if I do that, what does that mean in terms of me and my role? Those two things I think are highly correlated.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, when we think about the importance of intent in whatever we do, right? It's like, what's the intent of this program or this transformation? It's just so critical because the more you can be clear on the intent and give some good examples of, um, you know, how that intent is going to materialize through successful work within the program, the more you're going to get buy-in and
Mhm.
people on board and authentic participation, right? And authentic adoption and authentic work towards getting these backlogs together, et cetera. So I think the intent is the starting point and is just so important.
Mhm. I love, that, thank you, because I
Hmm.
think the idea of business case leakage it is definitely a phrase that's new to me, but it's so meaningful. And I think that you can just hear it and you can start to feel the intensity or the value, of it. Or I noticed another phrase that you used in your explanation of all of this was, you're leaving value, on the table. Because of the business case leakage. And so I think all those words are so important. So, we knew that today in this top Rejuvi 45 topic, we called Stronger Together, we were gonna, open with you talking about this phrase called business case leakage. And what I want to do is kind of transition it into this whole notions of how certain things coming together can actually make you stronger, right? Some things are stronger together, but also in this particular case will help you to kind of get after leaving value on the table, or actually help you to get after the idea of business case leakage. And one of the things I want to just talk about, I want to shift to from business case leakage to the idea of force field analysis. And I don't have you ever heard that phrase before, force field analysis?
No.
Right. Yeah, okay. So force field analysis is a term that's used to help someone understand the current dynamics in any given situation. And the current dynamics are boiled down to, what are the things that are helping you drive towards what you want, right? Drive towards these qualitative and these quantitative measurements that you're looking for. But in addition to understanding what are the things that help you drive, you have to understand what are the things that are actually restraining you from it, like that are preventing you from making it happen. And so force field analysis was this idea of, in any current situation, in any current change, you can take a look at all the things that are hindering versus all the things that are helping you to make it happen. And I think if we want to get after business case leakage, if we want to get after leaving value on the table, if we want to get after a fresh, modern approach to org effectiveness or to change leadership, I think that you're going to have to understand force field analysis and how some things coming together are actually stronger. So to do that, I have today, my prop is a rubber band. I'm actually shocked that I could find this large of a rubber band in my office in today's day and age, but there you go. So, okay, so let's take a look at a business case. There's always this recognition of, you're here today, right? This is your current state. And then you put forth, your vision, right? Right. You put forth your vision. And so that's here. and maybe I should do it the other way. This is the current state, that'll work better, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm in reverse. This is the current state and this is the future state. So there we have it. And you build a business case for it, right? And the farther these two elements are apart, you start, what's happening to that rubber band? There's a lot of tension, on that rubber band. So the farther your current state and your future are apart, the more creative tension that you actually have. And the more likely it is, right, that to deal with that tension, it's our natural tendency to start letting go of actually where you want to go, right? So you let go of the vision, you let go of pieces of the dream, you let go of pieces of the business case because it's easier, right? You're taking the tension off that rubber band.
Mhm.
And so there was this guy, his name was Kurt Lewin, and he was a social psychologist, I believe, German. I'm not super sure about that, but I believe that he was. And so he was the guy that is kind of the thought leader and the author of this notion called thought leadership, and so or of force field analysis. And so his idea was, for any given situation, how do you deal with that creative tension, right? Without necessarily having to always let go of your vision, right? To make it easier. And his idea was, in all of these situations, you have to take a look at those two things. In situation number one, you have to take a look at what are all the things that are helping you? What are all the drivers that are allowing you to go from here to here? Like, so now how are you kind of going this way? But at the same time, he's saying start to really identify all of the things that are taking you other way, the things that are preventing you from actually having it occur. So be in control of your drivers and your restrainers. And I think that in order for us to minimize business case leakage in a change leadership scenario, I think that one of the key practices for change leadership going forward is always being in control of how tight, right, how tense our sense of creative tension actually is, and being in control of the drivers and the restrainers. Because if you're not, you're going to get that business case leakage by letting go of the vision. And that in and of itself, so let me stop there. Like, did that make sense to you? Just kind of
Yeah.
conceptually?
Yeah, totally makes sense. Yep.
Yeah. So I think that as we look at org effectiveness in a change leadership effort going forward, or we take a look at what Rejuvi would call is modern change leadership practices, your practices, your methodology have to give you a way to understand, number one, what are our drivers? And you have to understand the capability, the leadership capability that currently exists inside of your people that are guiding the change, the people that are building stuff because of the change, the people that are driving business with the change. You have to be in control of how much capability do they have, because that is the thing that is going to drive you over this way, right? The other thing that you have to do is you have to get control of your risk factors. You have to get in control of the things that are going to hold you back. And those are less having to do with your leadership capability, but it has more to do with your organization risk, meaning what risk exists inside of your organization, just like you talked about before, called, this thing called there's erosion of adoption rates. um, you have to understand the things that are actually causing that erosion. And the things that are actually causing that erosion are things like the burning platform, or the big reason why a change is important has never really been well established, and or it's not well understood. And if you don't have that, it's a risk for your organization. It is a restraining factor, right? And it's going to actually, if you don't deal with it, it's going to actually pull business case leakage, right? And it's going to be pulling you back to status quo. But it's not just factors like the the burning platform for the change is not well understood, there are factors like there's not confidence or trust in the guiding team that is driving this particular change. And so you have to understand that those are risks. They are restraining forces inside of your change initiative. And if you don't deal with them, right, you are not deal with them, manage them, address them, you are literally then saying, okay, with the creative tension that exists in my change, my inability to deal with the restrainers means that you're actually doing this right here, right? You're actually minimizing the vision. And therefore, you get to these situations called, okay, there we fell flat and we have this business case linkage on our hand. So over the course of delivering Rejuvi 45, I think that we were learning so much about the idea of modern leadership. And the idea of modern leadership is that as contributors, as leaders, as contributors to business, we have to continually challenge ourselves to bring together ideas that will make us better and solve problems that have created problems for us in the past. And so, and if you look at past Rejuvi 45 sessions, when we've looked at the idea of stronger together, we've talked about this is the notion of two growth models, right? The growth model of the human being coming together with the growth model of the business, because until you bring those two things together, you're not going to have this sense of what modern leadership really is, which is this great, compassionate human leadership, in addition to or blended with this, sharp, fierce business leadership. But stronger together can be applied to specialty fields of leadership. And I think that when I heard your phrase, business case leakage, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic, because it's a specialty case of modern leadership called modern change leadership. And business case leakage exists when you do not address the things that need to be addressed stronger together, both the driving factors and the restraining factors in any given change situation. Then if you're not addressing the helps or the hinders, right, and you're going to let this creative tension exist in that change leadership effort, you are actually going to then just, it's not your current state that's changing. You're going to let go of that vision, right? Release that creative tension. And there you go. Nothing actually changes, right?
Yeah, and I think what's been really fascinating is obviously we're on we're on a modern leadership journey for a reason, right? We're so passionate about the modern leadership journey because work is changing dramatically and it's
Mhm.
changing for a number of reasons. But one of the biggest reasons is the power of compute that we're able to put in the hands of individuals across companies, right? And the command and control style leadership just isn't conducive to allowing everybody to be as creative and as productive as they possibly can be
Yep.
and that and to really be able to bring their best to work every day, right? And so that's what the beauty of why I'm so passionate about the Rejuvi modern leadership model is because the model through and through, is putting exactly that in place for the organizations that are embracing it. It's a framework that allows everybody to bring their best. And by the way, it also correlates to great business results because when everybody brings their best, you get your best business results. Well, as we're working through that, and then it's like, as part of all these changes that are going on, transformations are happening all over the place in all kinds of organizations, right? And so now the things that breed success from modern leadership are the same things that breed success in being successful with transformational programs, right? Because when you're very clear about your intent, when you're very clear about, how far and fast can you go with, changes, et cetera, how does everybody bring their best every day? it's one thing to have a gut feel about that and to think you're right about assessing different parts of your organization and who's ready for transformational change. But it's another thing to be able to actually measure it and kind of baseline it, see where you're at, and that can inform decisions on how you're rolling transformational change out to an organization and those things that you need to work on before you do, so that so that you get where you want to get to, which is the business case that you put together in the first place. So it's just, yeah, I think these I hate to call them tangential, but these additional use cases to the core of what we're trying to do with modern leadership are incredibly important and incredibly valuable. And we keep coming up with more and more of them, I think, the fact that we do is a statement to how powerful, the framework and the model is that we're bringing forward. So it's been super exciting.
Mhm. Well, I don't know how to talk about it either. Use cases is one way. I think practically speaking, you have real leaders in real organizations every day trying to figure out how do they apply their modern leadership muscle to a big opportunity or a big problem, that's sitting in front of them. And I think it's becoming more and more clear that these places where they're trying to, apply their modern leadership muscle, are are the use cases for modern leadership. You use the phrase the power of compute. And again, I think that it gives us even another way to start to think about some things just are stronger together, right?
Hmm.
Because, again, in a general leadership scenario, you will get better results if you can think about compassionate human leadership in addition to fierce business leadership. In a change leadership scenario, you will get better results if you will from current state to future state, you will not let go of the future state, right? You're going to actually move the current state closer to the future state. You will get better results by looking at both driving forces and restraining forces stronger together. But in terms of thinking about the power of compute, right? You will get better results if you actually have both qualitative and quantitative data in front of you and have a framework that can inform those processes, right? It's stronger together. And
Hmm.
that to me is what makes all of this so doable. So we can get on this Rejuvi 45 program today, just like we do 3 times a month, every Thursday, we get out here. And we're not just talking about this theoretically, right? There is a framework called modern leadership that's going to help you get better results in general, in change leadership scenarios, because of the power of compute, right? The platform is
Hmm.
available and it's going to be able to give you the directioning and decisioning data that you need in order to be stronger together in general or in any place that you want to apply your modern leadership muscle to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally makes sense.
Mhm.
I totally agree.
Yep. Okay, so thank you, Charlie. Again, thank you everyone for joining us for today's session of Rejuvi 45 Stronger Together. And as you take a look at this particular session, I think that you're going to really enjoy taking a look at some of the other Rejuvi 45 sessions of the Stronger Together edition. Why? Because each of one of them will start to tell these very different stories about different meanings and different ways to think about what elements actually have to come together in order for you to not get business case leakage to gain the value that you want in order for you to build your modern leadership capability. So we will be back next week. The topic is Take the Risk. So next Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Thank you everyone for tuning in, for watching our full recordings and or watching our reels. We appreciate every view. Next time you do so, bring a friend. Until we get together for Take a Risk or Take the Risk, be well and we will talk soon.